don't want to get into this very much, but before the game came out, there was the controversy with the Bayonetta voice actress, Helena Taylor, about pay, and then she was lying about what she was asked, and all this stupid bullshit. The controversy did not affect my enjoyment or disenjoyment of the game at all. Just wanted to mention it because it is important before the game came out. This is going to be a quick overview of the main characters in the game. For bigger spoilers, I'm going to talk about that in the story portion of the review. Bayonetta in this game feels a bit off from the other games. She doesn't get that much screen time with other people, so she doesn't really have that much to bounce off of, except for other versions of herself, which you also don't really see her interact with very much. The Bayonettas from the other universes don't really get much screen time to really tell you their different personalities or what really makes them different. So besides the costumes, most of the time you can't really tell the difference between them. Jeanne is on her own mission in this game, spending 90% of it in this Metal Gear looking base with stealth missions, looking for one guy. It kind of feels like she doesn't really do much in the whole game, because that is her entire mission. You just are going after this one guy while Bayonetta's world hopping, so it really doesn't feel like she contributes much until the very end of the game. Rodin doesn't really do anything in the game. He has a pretty funny moment in the very beginning, and then he gives you your first weapon, first actual weapon, besides the handguns you usually have, and then he just kind of reverts to shopkeeper, not even saying anything unique. You might as well be saying, "What are you buying?" every time you enter the shop, which is weird because at the very beginning he says that the new enemy threat is even a threat to him, but he doesn't offer to help in any way. He does not leave his shop at all. Without getting into too many spoilers, let's just say the new character in this game, Viola, and if you're noticing a trend with some of these characters, she doesn't do too much in this game either. She has the driving point of the plot in the beginning, telling Bayonetta about the multiverses and the such, but then she just kind of stumbles her way through the rest of the game, and you only play with her in 4 missions, maybe 5, but I believe it's 4, and I did not care for her character. She did not get the screen time she needed for a brand new character, especially a playable one. It seemed like they really wanted Nero from Devil May Cry, but didn't want to put in the work to make you actually like her. I'll touch more on how she plays and what exactly she does in the story and gameplay sections. This game has a new mechanic called Demon Slaves. Basically, you have these giant demons you can control and summon during battle. Now, while these demons are on the field, you cannot move Bayonetta unless you command them to do a move that takes a little while when you let go of the button. Honestly, Demon Slaves was not a bad addition. I believe some of them could be better. Some of the later demons are definitely the most fun to use in the game. But they kind of designed it so that you almost have to use the Demon Slaves in certain encounters. They love throwing giant enemies at you in this game that you mostly use the Demon Slaves on because they will just smack Bayonetta around. Some of the later ones are pretty cheap. I absolutely destroyed the final boss in this game with one of the final demons you get. His witch time plus that demon just kind of whittled down his life. But yeah, I don't think it was that bad of an addition. I kind of like them. Now, here comes one of the major problems with the gameplay of the game. While past Bayonettas have had mini-games here and there, this one just over-abuses them. Every boss battle you fight against, first phase of the boss, and then when the boss transforms into an arch form, you have some sort of mini-game fight. They range from super slow and boring to passable for the most part. The last two Multiverse bosses, their minigames weren't that bad, but the first two Multiverse bosses, they were awful. Some stages also have minigames that you have while going through them. It's just too much. I call something like this the Arkham Knight syndrome, because in Arkham Knight, you had this really good core gameplay, but they didn't want you to play the game. They wanted you to use the Batmobile all the time. In this one, you have pretty good core gameplay, but they don't want you to play that. They want you to play all these mini games, and it also makes replayability, which is one of Bayonetta's strongest points. You want to unlock stuff doing that. Makes you not want to replay on higher difficulties. Because even if you think the minigames are okay at first, imagine doing them 3 or 4 other times on higher difficulties. That just sounds like torture to me. So Viola. So her gameplay, instead of witch time through dodging, she get it through parries. And she also has a demon you can summon called Cheshire, who kind of does his own thing while you punch enemies, because you have to throw her sword down in order to summon him. Sometimes Cheshire's kind of useless, especially if you're fighting smaller enemies. You might as well not even summon him, because he is not going to hit them. And also, while Cheshire is summoned, you cannot parry, which is her main way of getting witch time, unless you have the moon accessory equipped, which kind of makes that a must to be one of Viola's accessory slots, especially for higher difficulties. In my opinion, Viola was not fun to play with at all. Her levels dragged for me. She felt like a watered down character. She does not kill a single major boss in the entire game. She does have some boss fights, but she does not finish any of them off. It felt kind of pointless playing as her, since she didn't do anything super major in the game. And she also does not get any other weapons. So what you see is what you get for her entire gameplay. So the new enemies in the game are man-made creations called homunculi. They have pretty much no personality, outside possibly the main villain Singularity, but even him, his personality is almost non-existent. He does at least speak to Bayonetta. The homunculi look really boring. They have the same color scheme, every one of them. You do fight variants of ones you've already fought, so kind of makes it less exciting to see new versions of them. When I was trying to prove a point to a friend that Bayonetta 3 does have good enemy variety, I was scrolling through the enemy list, like listing off the homunculi, and I actually couldn't tell some of them apart from what I thought, which is not really a good sign. Not a great look for the game when you're trying to show enemy variety. The bosses actually don't look bad though, but again, the mini games kind of ruined the cool factor for some of them. It also ruined some of the you also ruined some of the really coolness. It's an example of an enemy. An example of an enemy you already fought coming back as a new enemy is you fight a jellyfish, and then towards the end of the game you fight a new version of the jellyfish who doesn't really do much different, and they pretend that it's an enemy you have not seen before, and it just makes it less exciting to see new enemies. Alright, if you have made it this far into the review, it's time to really get into the meat of it, and this is where all my major spoilers are going to be. So if you want to play the game for yourself, I would go play it now or follow along with how far you are currently in the story. I'll make basically title cards for each place so you can find out where you are in the story. So the story starts off pretty promising. You play a little bit as Bayonetta, and then she ends up getting killed. And it adds some intrigue, and you want to see what's happening next. You're like, oh shit, the fuck is going on? You then get a cutscene showcasing some great personality from the cast, and also get introduced to the enemies of the game. You fight a boss called Kraken, which isn't a bad boss battle, and you're on your way. You then meet Viola and John in Rodon's shop, and now you can say goodbye to Rodon being in basically any other cutscene until the very end of the game. You then learn of an island in the middle of the sea where the Multiverse is housed. Yes, this is a multiverse story for some reason. A very poor one at that. So buckle in and tune in to see what exciting multiverses we get to see in the game. Yep, you read that right. The first universe you're going to be headed to is Tokyo. First, you go through this island part to get to the point of transferring universes. Then it teleports you to the Tokyo universe. So, funny thing about making another universe just a city. When I was playing through this and it teleported me to Tokyo, I was like, oh, I guess I'm going through Tokyo first before they send me to another universe. And it wasn't until I saw the Bayonetta of Tokyo that I realized, oh, Tokyo is one of the universes we're going to. It's not a good sign in a multiverse story when you can't tell that you've jumped universes. So you go through some of Tokyo when you come across a new enemy called Strider, which looks like a werewolf. And he looks really cool, and his boss fight was really fun. He had a really good song, and you'll find out how they completely ruined that later on. So you beat Strider, he dips out, and you make your way through the rest of Tokyo. So you come across Japanese Bayonetta. She doesn't really have a difference in personality, no different language, like she doesn't speak Japanese. She doesn't even have a Japanese accent to speak the English. Just looks like Bayonetta in a different costume that you would unlock in a previous game. So you get to play with her to fight a boss known as Iridescent. You fight him and the core with her, and then she ends up getting killed. After that, Iridescent transforms into Arch-Iridescent, and you pull out your witch heart and summon your own big demon. You then go into the slowest form of rock, paper, scissors I have ever seen. With what could have been a cool Godzilla reference, it's just so slow. It really bogs down what could have been a cool boss fight. The way to win, you just kind of look at what he's going to do. You pick your rock, paper, scissors move, and boom, boom, boom. So you defeat him, and you go along your way to the next universe. So I'm not going to touch upon all of Jean's missions, because they don't really lead up to much until the very last mission. She has a cool Metal Gear James Bondy intro. I'll admit I really like that, but her story doesn't go anywhere until the very end. It's just go through this base within like 4 missions to go after a doctor named Sigurd, so that he can tell you how to get into the Alphaverse, where the main villain's singularity is. Our missions are stealth based, but you don't really have to use stealth that much. You can just power through them. I know some people really hated her missions, but they're harmless for the most part and not hard at all. Nothing really happens story-wise until she finds Dr. Sigurd. So we're transported back to the island, and you go through some of the island again until you are transported to China. Now, China doesn't look bad. You get a small glimpse at Chinese Bayonetta's life, but nothing really noteworthy. Once again, she does not speak Chinese. She does not have a Chinese accent. Just kind of Bayonetta in a different costume again. You meet up with her, fight the next boss battle. Alright boss battle. She ends up dying. The boss goes Arch. You pull out your heart. And then you play probably my least favorite minigame, the Bubble Bath. Which you just kind of keep throwing bubbles and praying that they hit. And once they do, you kick the shit out of the boss. And it's not really all that exciting of a boss battle. You defeat him, and then you're once again on your way to the next universe. I hope by this point you're kind of seeing a pattern with how the story beats are going. So we go to an island again, do some light platforming, go to a new universe from the island, this time Cairo. You play as Viola, who's stuck in the desert, missing Cheshire. So you do some walking around until you find an enemy with your sword, beat the shit out of them, go around with Cheshire looking for water. You do some running around until you meet up with Strider again. And then the big reveal is here. Strider is really Luca as a werewolf. Why is Luca a werewolf? Has he always been a werewolf? Why did Viola just transform into something? More will be revealed later. But for now, we gotta go back and play with Bayonetta, who is also in Cairo. So you learn a little bit about the Jean and Bayonetta from this universe, which I actually really like the Cairo, Jean, and Bayonetta. They kind of switch roles, where Bayonetta is not the confident person that she normally is, and I actually really like that. But once again, they still don't have any accent or anything that you would if you lived in Cairo and spoke English. Again, it's just an English accent for them. Kind of feels pointless doing these around the world if they're not gonna change the language at the very least. Now, you do fight like hologram of Jean for some reason, so don't entirely understand why. Alright boss battle. It would have been cool to play as this Bayonetta or Jean before, they die. So after you go through that, you fight these dual dragon head guys. Pretty dope boss battle. Jean ends up dying. Then you fight the Arch version, which you control Phantom on the ground and Birdman in the sky. Honestly, one of my favorite boss battles in the game, mini-game wise. It's pretty fast. Phantom controls nicely. After that, after you defeat the boss, a random black hole opens up after Phantom explodes, and because we have a dead Bayonetta quota to fill, she falls into the black hole, and we're gonna be on our way. Honestly, Cairo is probably my favorite multiverse in the whole game. So you know the drill by this point, so I'm gonna speed this up. You go to the island, go to another universe, which is just another real life city, different Bayonetta with no accent change or language change. Go through the city that doesn't feel like a different universe, just feels like we're going around the world or different time periods. Fight a boss, play a minigame, dead Bayonetta. In between all this, Viola comes face to face with Fairy Luca from another universe, Lucian or Lucian, who I dub D&D Luca because he kind of looks like a D&D character. Alright, so I'm gonna tell you the actual story of Bayonetta 3, which is mostly found through data logs. So you have this enemy called Singularity going around these multiverses, killing these Bayonettas, destroying them. Why is he doing that? What is Singularity? You really have to read the character profiles and data logs to find that out. Singularity is an AI created by who the fuck knows, whose goal is to destroy universes to make the Alphaverse more powerful than Inferno and Paradiso. So, if he's not as strong as Inferno and Paradiso, why is he able to kill these Bayonettas so easily? At least one Bayonetta was able to defeat Jubileus, who we learn there's only one Jubileus in the multiverse, but they also say that some of these Bayonettas have gone through what Bayonetta 1 went through, which doesn't make sense if there's only one Jubileus. How could multiple go through that? So all through the game, you have Singularity calling Bayonetta Eve, and we find out that Luca is Adam. Like the Bible, Adam and Eve, woo. So the way Luca transforms into a werewolf is that he hears voices in his head from other Lucas from other universes. Whenever a Luca dies, he gains more power through that. And the main villain, Singularity, is killing other Lucas because he's destroying other universes. Lucas in those universes most likely have died, thus giving Luca more strength when he transforms into Strider. There's also this thing called Dark Adam, which is like Luca's Heartless, And there you find out that with every Eve there's an Adam, with every Rick there's a Morty. But that would make more sense if the universes we went to, we saw Lucas in those universes. But we don't see any Lucas in any of those universes. We mostly see their Jeans, or in France we see Rosa. If they wanted that to make more sense, why didn't every universe have its own Luca? The only other Luca we see is D&D Luca, and he doesn't even have a Bayonetta in his universe, as we saw, or she's already dead. It really ruins Luca's character for me, because he was a lovable goofball who somehow survived all this stuff based on luck. And this kind of just says, oh man, he was always a werewolf and a fairy or some stupid bullshit. And it just kind of ruins his moments where, you know, you see him help out, and it's charming because he has no powers, but he keeps trying to help out Bayonetta anyway. This was not it, Chief. So Bayonetta and Viola go to the Alphaverse. Jean gets stabbed by Professor Xavier and dies. Like 100% dies. There are no other Jeans, because it's insinuated that Singularity destroyed pretty much all the universes by this point. So even the Bayonetta you were playing as in 1 and 2, their universes somehow got destroyed, despite her should be stronger than this Singularity. So you finally fight the final boss, Singularity, who wants to destroy the universe for the data's found in the data logs. And so he's somehow stronger than 1 and 2's final boss. Don't think he deserves it. And you only find out about his motivation through the data logs. If you don't read them, you're wondering, why is he doing this? Now it's fine with 1 and 2's final bosses not really having much of a reason, because they were higher beings. But Singularity's man-made. He kind of has to have some sort of motivation to be doing this. So, first form, you do that stupid-ass rock, paper, scissors, boring minigame once again. I guess they really like that minigame and wanted to use it again. Then you fight his second phase, which isn't all that hard. He doesn't look bad design-wise as well. Then a cutscene plays, where you see all the Bayonettas come out, and you're like, fuck yeah, we're gonna have this amazing showdown where I'm gonna play as Bayonetta, and we're gonna have like 15 Bayonettas beating the shit out of this final boss. But nope, couldn't even make it a minigame. It's just a cutscene. The Bayonettas die once again. No gameplay. Fuck you. By this point, the final boss is kind of dragging out, but you still have one more form to go. Bayonetta 1 and 2 Bayonetta, not to be confused with the ones you actually played in those games. Completely different Bayonettas from what you played through in those games. Come to help you with the fight. Honestly, really cool part. Really enjoyed that. They die once again, because fuck you. Viola does fuck all to help in this battle. She stabs Singularity and he just kind of brushes it off. Again, showing how useless she is throughout the whole game. So you defeat Singularity, and then your talisman breaks, and oh no, your demon contract breaks, and boom, there goes Bayonetta's soul. You find out Viola is Bayonetta and Luca's child, which you kind of can figure out while playing through the game. Not the biggest of plot twists. Luca and Bayonetta then get dragged into Inferno and die. Viola is going to be your new main character through the series. After the credits, they realize, oh shit, Viola didn't have a final boss battle. So you get to fight Heartless Bayonetta on Destiny Island, after which Bayonetta pronounces that Viola is Rey Skywalker. I mean, Bayonetta. Now, despite all the complaining I've been doing about Bayonetta 3, it's not a bad game. It's a bad and disappointing sequel, and a bad ending for the character of Bayonetta. I really have no interest in continuing the series from here on out. Even if they decide to bring back Bayonetta, the damage is kind of already done. I don't care for Viola. I don't care about playing as her next game or where her journey is gonna go. It was not a good passing the torch story. It was not a good multiverse story. Felt more like we were going around the world or different time periods. They were gonna do a multiverse story. Why didn't they have some more fun with it? Have, like, I don't know, an 8-bit world or something that just didn't feel like, oh, this world's Tokyo. You're in Tokyo, but a different world, but it looks just like Tokyo, and there's a Tokyo Bayonetta, and then there's this Bayonetta, and then this Bayonetta. It just did not need to be a multiverse story. If you like this video, you can drop me a comment. This is my first time doing a review, so any helpful criticism is always appreciated. If you liked what you saw, you can drop a like or subscribe if you want. I might do more of this stuff. Yeah, thank you very much.